Most people have a fairly dreamy perception of cities till you actually start living in them. Fancy buildings, well-paying jobs, good roads, excellent facilities. Maybe it was true in the late 90s and the early 2000s, but today, Indian cities are concrete jungles choked by traffic and pollution. Let me tell you about two of India's biggest cities, Bangalore and Mumbai. Let's start with India's IT capital. A tech company from the Netherlands has something fairly shocking for us. It has ranked Bangalore as the second most congested city in the world. Let me repeat that for you. Bangalore has been ranked as the second most congested city in the world. London is the first and Bangalore is second. They say it takes 29 minutes and 10 seconds to cover 10 kilometers, which means if you do the math, an average speed of 20 kilometers per hour. We will discuss the congestion problem in just a bit in detail, but first let's show you what it takes to get from one place to another in Bangalore at this hour. It's about 8:04. My colleague Neha is joining me live from Bangalore. Let's put her on air right now. She has valiantly undertaken the task to travel on the Benharghatta road for 6 kilometers. This show is about 58 minutes long. We'll see if she makes it to her destination by the time this show ends. Hi, Neha. Good evening. Thank you for doing this for us. What can I say except best of luck? And can I ask you how much time you're expecting to travel these 6 kilometers in?
Well, Shreya, I'm not going to lie. I would be extremely optimistic in saying 45 minutes. This road that we're traveling on, the Baneghatta road, happens to be one of the most traffic-riddled roads. This, in fact, is a road that connects most parts of South Bangalore to the central and the eastern parts of the city. This was, in fact, envisioned, of course, to try and ease the traffic. And now, to make matters worse, there is the metro construction that's currently underway on this road. And, speak to any old Bangalorean and they would tell you that traveling on Baneghatta road is nothing short of a nightmare. Well, of course, you mentioned that it is almost about 8:05. And we'd really, of course, hope to make it to our destination, which is Arkere, which happens to, again, be quite a residential area over there, a developing one. And we'll really have to wait and see. But, given, of course, the way things are looking right now, it is quite bad. We are moving, thankfully. That's, of course, one thing that several Bengalurians don't even have the privilege to do in most parts of the city. Talk about a white field, talk about other areas, right now. The fact is that we'll try and, of course, we'll let you know where we reach in the next 45 minutes possibly.
Okay. So you are hoping to travel a distance of 6 kilometers in 40 to 45 minutes. So hopefully that's before the show ends. Neha, we'll keep coming back to you through the show because we want to show our viewers what it means to be traveling in Bangalore right now at this hour. But for the moment, it's back to our metros. If you live in Bangalore, you are literally wasting your time in cars. I have some numbers for you. Take a look at them. Out of 260 hours spent on traveling 10 kilometers, 134 hours were spent on congestion in Bangalore, meaning you were stuck in your car and you were not moving. During rush hours, the average commuter is spending 134 hours extra in their car. That's equal to 5 days and 14 hours. You could be spending this time doing anything you want, your family, watching a film, even traveling. Instead, you're stuck in a traffic jam. The question is, why is Bangalore gridlocked? Well, for starters, the lack of planning. The city's population is growing rapidly, but the infrastructure is not able to keep up. It's as simple as that. The population was some 56 lakh in 2001 and 87 lakh in 2011. Guess the population of Bangalore right now. It's more than 1 crore 33 lakh and counting. And along with the population, the number of cars has also gone up. Bangalore had 50 lakh vehicles at the beginning of the last decade. Now it has more than 1 crore vehicles. 1 crore vehicles. The problem is the city's roads and public transport have not grown accordingly. New vehicles keep clogging the roads, triggering endless jams. So that's the story of Bangalore. Now, let's shift to India's financial capital, Mumbai. In the last week of January, Mumbai was the most polluted city in India and the second most polluted in the world. What's more, Delhi doesn't even feature in the top 10. Mumbai's air quality has been consistently getting worse over the last decade. If you look at the last 3 winters, the number of days with poor and very poor AQI has actually doubled. The biggest reason for this pollution is construction in Mumbai. 71% of the dust particles come from roads and building construction activities. There are new metro lines, airports and highways being built in and around Mumbai. All of these projects are contributing to pollution. Now, we're focusing on Mumbai and Bangalore today because they feature on 2 notorious lists today itself. But take any Indian city, chances are they are far from ideal. In fact, only 5 Indian cities feature on the Global Livability Index. And all 5 of them have scored poorly. Delhi ranks 140th out of 173. So 140 out of 173. Mumbai is 141 out of 173. Bangalore is ranked least livable in India at 146. These numbers raise questions about our model of urban planning, our population growth, and our development model as well. Because right now, cities are improving our standard of living at the cost of our lifespan. That is the reality of all metro cities in this country. Whether it's Delhi, whether it's Bangalore, whether it's Mumbai, well, perhaps not as much Chennai. Let me go across to our guests who are joining us this evening. We have Sandeep Anirudhan, who is the founder, Citizens Agenda for Bangalore. He's with us on the broadcast. A Bangalore voice. Indrani Malkani is chairperson, VCAN. A voice from Mumbai. Vimlendu Jha is an environmentalist, speaks for all cities, but is based out of Delhi. And Ravindra Punde is founder, partner of the Design Cell, telling us why our cities need to be designed better. Thank you all very much for being here. I'm going to start with Bangalore. Since Bangalore is the one featuring in a fairly notorious list, it is the second most congested city in the world after London, Sandeep. But I guess it didn't take a survey for a Bangalorean to know that.
Yeah, first of all, I have a bone to pick with the list itself. Bangalore is actually not the second most congested. It is the most congested. It is the number 1. In fact, it has on the same list. It has been number 1 in 2020. It has, and in the last 5 years, I think 2 or 3 years, it was the number 1. But there's a problem with this. The methodology that TomTom applies, it is using only floating car data. So basically, London, I don't think deserves to be number 1 on this list. In fact, it shouldn't even be in the top 50 or top 100 because London has everything that Bengaluru doesn't have. There is no comparison. London has an underground, it has a metro, it has a suburban rail, it has 20% cycling surface in the city, it has waterways, it has first mile, last mile connect, it has excellent cab facility. The problem with this list is London intentionally has narrow streets to discourage car traffic. So it's picking up the data of those few car driving idiots in London, and therefore London is top number 1 in the list. Those people who are in those cars can use metro, it can use underground, it can use suburban, they can use anything else and get home. In fact, 70%, according to a BBC report, 70% of traffic in London is handled by cycles. Cyclists take the load because 20% of the road infrastructure is cycling. So a proper analysis of road congestion would be to take all these indicators, like how much time does a commuter take to go from point A to point B, regardless of how, if they take a metro or suburban or anything like that, then London will not be anywhere on the top. It will be somewhere at the bottom because somebody in London can easily get by anywhere very quickly. They don't have to take a car or a cab,
Okay.
Coming to Bengaluru.
Okay, so you're saying Bangalore is number 1. There is a problem with this survey.
Yeah, the survey itself is flawed.
So Bangalore is number 1, you're saying. They have got the survey
Bangalore
wrong.
has to be number 1.
Okay, but I can say that anyone who's stuck in a traffic jam in Delhi or Bombay will say we should be number 1. Why Bangalore?
No, not that way. See, I'll tell you why Bengaluru is justified to be number 1. It's taking car floating data, right? Which means somebody who's driving a personal vehicle. That's the data it's taking. They're not taking people traveling by metro. It's not taking people who are traveling by mass transit. In London, majority will be traveling by mass transit. Therefore, the indicator is wrong. Whereas you come to Bengaluru, Bengaluru doesn't have mass transit, doesn't have a suburban, it has a very nascent metro, it has a pathetic bus service. So 80% of Bengaluru own their own private vehicles. That is why Bengaluru is congested, and therefore the data on Bengaluru is correct. Everybody is a private vehicle owner. Therefore, Bengaluru has to be number one. It can't be. Now, the other problem is this. Why, as you rightly put, the problem is because of lack of planning. Now, let me give you a simple indicator. Mumbai has double the population of Bengaluru. Okay, it's about 2 crore plus, 2.5 crores. Bengaluru has about 1.3 crore population. Okay. Mumbai has 40 lakh registered private vehicle owners. That is, cars and bike owners are only about 40 to 50 lakhs. Bengaluru on the other has 1 crore plus private vehicles, which means almost every resident of Bengaluru has a private vehicle. Why? The answer is simple. We don't have mass transit. We don't have public transport. So this is the relevant data. And as you rightly said, lack of planning. This is the lack of planning because in 1960s, even before Karnataka was formed, when it was Mysore government, Bengaluru city had a metropolitan transport council, and it had planned a ring railway. It had planned an underground railway. But after Bengaluru became the capital of Karnataka, all those were shelved. The Metropolitan Transport Council was shelved till now. And in 1992, the constitution declared that every city should have a metropolitan planning committee to do the master planning. We don't have a master plan MPC to do master planning. Therefore, we don't have master plans, and there is no mobility plan. And in 1982, Rights had planned a suburban rail system in Bengaluru. And we still don't have a suburban rail. So that's what I'm saying.
So essentially the city is a mess. Okay, let me quickly, it's chaotic and it's choked. Let me get in a caller from, let me get in a caller from Bangalore. Purnima is on the phone with us. Purnima, go ahead, please.
Hi, good evening. Mainly, of course, I'm a Bangalorean, proud Bangalorean. To be honest, Bangalore is very messy in central areas, in the central heart of the city. Okay? And of course, in JP Nagar and Jayanagar, the traffic is very moderate and people are disciplined, right? And in few places, people are not following traffic signals, traffic rules, I mean. Okay? We also have, I'm a secretary for the JP Nagar Welfare Association. We have been directed to start the work on signal synchronization, that is central business district from. High traffic density corridors in the city are messed up, in fact. The problem caused by frequent digging of roads, especially in Bangalore, by various civic agencies like BWSSB and BMRCL, and leaving the debris without covering the dug-up roads also came up for discussion. So this is the main problem, especially roads and people are not disciplined. That we have to work on that. Okay? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, Purnima ji. Ravindra Punde, you know, when you go to Bangalore, people say this, you know, this was a place for retired people. It was a garden city. It had lots of parks. It was green. And it was always small till IT companies started coming in and people started pouring in, and then it suddenly expands. Obviously, if everyone in Bangalore has a car and everyone is out to work, what do? The traffic will be a mess. And how do you redesign a city that is already built?
Well, I think one of the most important questions here that we should really ask is not how much of traffic is on the road, but I think what's very important to ask is what are the tools available to a common man to move within the city? And I think that's one of the biggest questions, really. And because the car, ultimately, if you really see the occupancy of each of these cars, there might be one or two people at best. And so they occupy so much of road space. They occupy so much of movement. And I think the issue is, therefore, an emphasis on what I think Sandeep rightly pointed out was the emphasis on public transport. How do we move millions in a city? Actually, we have no sense of scale. You can imagine it's only, I mean, even if you say that there are 1 crore cars for a population of 1.3 crores, the distribution of that holding of cars is quite skewed, I'm pretty certain. It's not that everybody has a car, right? I mean, it is quite likely that much of it is actually quite skewed in its holding, in the sense that maybe 20 or 25% people might be holding cars. I'm talking about cars that occupy large space on streets. So I think it's very important for us to take a call. I think one of the and it also kind of comes from a larger economic sense that we have. Our sense of development and our ideas of development are anchored in this very American way of thinking of, roads and mobile automobiles. And for example, the recent regulation of saying that 15-year-old cars will not be allowed in the cities. I mean, while it might have a little nominal point on the environmental aspect, I think it's also, a push to the consumptive character that we are building within ourselves in our cities. So we really don't have a good roadmap, even in terms of the overall vision of how a city must grow. And to that extent, I think it's fundamentally very important that we lay emphasis on pavements, cycle tracks, end to end. End to end is the thing. We see some small gestures here and there, and they kind of are, but that's the new move that we need to make. In fact, I have done exercises where I have actually stolen space from road space and created more public space and looked at that, and it's possible to do it. So even to your question, even within the city, like again, Sandeep gave an example of the London roads being narrowed to kind of discourage vehicular movement, but that must come along with a very strongly built public infrastructure for transport and movement. And that includes pedestrians, cyclists. Because if you actually look at Mumbai, an average individual of the city takes the train and then walks to his place of work, right? Or takes a bus and walks to his place of work. That's much of the average. In fact, the car ownership is with only 8 to 10% of the population, if I'm not wrong. It's not really a huge number, but the number is huge. So I think this is something which we need to really look at very carefully, of how do we create this infrastructure within the city of, for example, recently I was watching a beautiful video on underground cycle parking space for Amsterdam. They have a huge lake under which they've actually built a huge cycle parking, which runs into some, I don't know, a few thousands, and they have multi-stack cycle tracks and things like that. So I think that's the way to that's one of the clues that we should take from the overall prospect.
Okay.
That's all that I have to say.
Okay. Talking about cars, there is a statistic that tells us that there are 510 private cars every kilometer in Mumbai, and Mumbai is actually the most car congested city in India. But Mumbai is today grappling with another problem, a problem which we have always identified with Delhi. So congratulations to our panelist from Mumbai, Indrani Malkani. Officially, you are the most populated city in the country now. How did Bombay get to a situation like that, given the fact that you have the sea right next to you, a natural air purifier? We were always told that.
It's good to be back on your show. And the last time I came, it was also to do with pollution. How did we arrive over here? Good question. Yeah. I don't think any one of us really have a straight answer. As far as the sea is concerned, there is an issue with the sea as well. Because strangely enough, in the daytime, we are supposed to have the air movement, the sea and land air mass. We get hot air near the sea. Can you believe that? So when we talk about climate change, for example, we are a living example. And how it is not just Mumbai, we are all connected. So therefore, I'm fairly certain that there are other issues which also contribute to it. But one of the biggest things of pollution that we talk about, which my two fellow panelists have already spoken about, is regarding the transport and the infrastructure construction. Now, when I'm talking about infrastructure construction, I'm not just talking about the public infrastructure that is going on, which is a given and is needed. Precautions are taken, but there is only that much you can do with the dust that flies around. But the huge amount of housing construction that is going on in every part of Mumbai, Greater Mumbai, and its adjoining area, because Mumbai is not restricted only within the municipal corporation limits of Greater Mumbai. You have what is called the metropolitan Mumbai region, the MMR region, Mumbai metropolitan region. So today, because of the sea, the landmass is less. So everything is concentrated in the small area that we call the landmass of Mumbai. Regarding this, congestion, I won't go into statistics because that is there for all to see. But public transport in a proper planned manner is the example of London as given by the first panelist. That is correct, because today in Mumbai, and I'm talking specifically Mumbai, we have to have the mobility that is required. Mumbai is a city which doesn't sleep. Everyone is working every moment, every living moment, waking moment, I would say. And even at night, the city doesn't sleep. So somewhere along, it is not restricted to any particular hours, your traffic movement. Earlier, you could say that in the afternoons, for example, you could time yourself when you would say that the traffic will not be too much. Nothing of the sort exists anymore. So the roads are narrow, the construction is going on, the sea is all messed up, the sea water, and that's a fact. So therefore, we have to ask ourselves that question. Green cover has reduced because we talk about plantation, but then again, we also have to see what sort of plantation we are doing, which will help us to reduce pollution. We don't look at that. We look at ornamental plants. Sure. There are all of these, factors. This is a subject which we can go on, but all of us, and I'm talking
give me a minute here. Indrani, give me a minute here.
Yes, sure.
Give me a minute here, because I do want to go back to Neha, who I think is still stuck in some sort of jam. Let me go across to Neha. Neha, I'm just coming back to you to figure out where you have reached so far. We started at 8:05. It's 8:25. That's roughly 20 minutes. Could you give us an update as to where you are right now?
Shreya, we've managed to cover a little more than half the distance. We're about, ideally, what should take about 10 minutes. And given the fact that there are multiple signals on the way, and given the fact that this road is riddled with potholes, slowing the traffic down further, I would hope that we'd reach there in 10 minutes. But to put this in perspective, Shreya, take a day when there's absolutely no traffic and the roads are empty. This distance that we're traveling today should take nothing more than 10 minutes, possibly 12 minutes, at the very most. And to double that up, of course, the fact that even during a peak hour, for that matter, the fact that this is taking us almost 40 minutes, which is 4 times more, is, really, of course, quite scary to say the least. And you've already mentioned earlier that, people spend most of their time on the road. But one thing that we picked up after speaking to several people today was that, yes, while the traffic authorities are doing their bit and they're trying their best to ease the traffic, we've got, in fact, 2 new people who've just taken charge as, of course, the head of the traffic department, and excellent work that's coming in. While the intent of people is there and they do want to switch to public transport, the last mile connectivity in Bangalore still remains the biggest challenge, which is hindering people from, switching entirely to taking buses or metros. And hopefully, that changes in the coming years.
Okay, 20 minutes, and you've done 3 kilometers in 20 minutes roughly then, Neha. We'll come to you at the end of the show as well. 40 to 45 minutes is what you estimated. So I think you are on track, as it were. Quickly going across to a caller before I go back to our guest. Anand is calling us from Bangalore. Anand, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, Shreya, and good evening, all the panelists. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. Hello?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
So, yeah, I kind of agree with most of the panelists and also with Neha who spoke. See, Bangalore is a fantastic city. and because of which a lot of people, and also the IT capital, so the growth of the city between the year 2001 to today, the ratio of the growth when it comes to the population versus the growth of the infra doesn't match. So this city is actually quite a small city. The roads are narrow. It was not built for this kind of a population. Nobody expected the city to grow as much as it has. And the big cities like Chennai, Bombay, Delhi, Kolkata, they got their infras in place because there were metros, and Bangalore was always considered a cosmopolitan city. Now, many governments changed. They're finally woken up. The metros are there. But because the city is congested and the roads are narrow, now when they are constructing these metros and flyovers, it makes the city narrower than what it was. So last year's survey is not a surprise. Bangalore should be number one if you ask me, like I think Sandeep spoke about it. It should be number one. It will be for the next couple of years till the infra comes into place, because they are doing the best they can. But yes, of course, the city still has the potholes.
Okay.
And there are many people who have bought cars. The car ratio that Sandeep, I think his name is, he spoke about is correct. There are a lot of people who have moved to Bangalore and they come from the IT sector and so on. They buy these big vehicles, and that's the reward. They reward themselves with the job they do. So you'll find in the daytime in peak traffic, one guy going in one car, and it'll be like an Innova. It'll be like a huge car. And it causes the traffic. Now, moving them to public transport will be a challenge. But yes, Bangalore will remain traffic jammed for the next couple of years. The metro is complete.
That's absolutely. Will people with cars move to public transport? That is a question, and that's a question I'm going to put to Vimlendu Jha as well, because that is a struggle that Delhi has had as well. But can I just quickly take in another caller? Lots of callers here, so I'm just going to beg for the patience of all our panelists on the show this evening. Mr. Ramaswamy is also calling us from Bangalore. Mr. Ramaswamy, please go ahead. Good evening.
Oh, good evening, Shreya. I hope you are able to hear me. I am a Mumbaiite.
I can, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Born, brought up in Mumbai. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
I am a Mumbaiite, born, brought up in Mumbai. But after retirement from the Border Security Force, I have settled down in Bangalore last 13 years. I had gone to Mumbai only last week, stayed there for 3 days. Like Sandeep is saying, the problem in Bangalore is the transportation, public transport. When I went to Bombay, I purchased a train ticket for 3 days, tourist ticket, and traveled by train by most of the places. In Bangalore, we just cannot do it. And we find that here, we in Bangalore, this is not developed, number one. I have listened to all those things. Most of the points are correct. I have got only one solution. In Bangalore traffic, I have been coming to Bangalore from 1973 onwards. And Bangalore, in 1991, when all these IT companies started here, the permission to all these industries and companies should not have been given in Bangalore. Mysore has been the capital of Bangalore, of erstwhile Mysore state. Now, Bangalore was a laid-back cantonment city for the British times. So that is why it was a retirement place. Now, after this state was born, the capital city should have been Mysore, but it turned out to be Bangalore for various reasons. Now, from 1991, all these IT companies, when they started, they should have been given permission in Mysore and not Bangalore.
Okay, so you're saying a mistake was made. Okay, you're saying a mistake was made. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. We have more callers, but let me get in Vimlendu Jha, who's been waiting patiently. Vimlendu, you've heard the callers, you've heard the other panelists. I know, and I'm fairly certain everyone on this panel knows enough and more people who have taken that conscious choice to move out of, say, a Delhi or a Bangalore or a Mumbai to settle in more peaceful, cleaner locales like Goa or the hills. That clearly is not a solution. I know that Japan is doing it. Tokyo, for example, is incentivizing people to, to move to suburban areas, to move to areas which are a little far away from Tokyo. But the fact is, I would have thought Delhi is the worst place in this country to live in, given the pollution from 3 months ago. But it seems Bombay is worse by the looks of it.
Shreya, actually, all the cities are the same. As in, indeed, from a statistic point of view, from the AQI data, what you have today, and perhaps last week, and this season, perhaps Mumbai is at the top in that sense. But if you look at most of the cities are fairly similar. I also want what everyone has been talking about when we say that there's a lot of traffic, we need to understand that we are the traffic. When we say there's a lot of garbage on the road, then we are the garbage that we're actually complaining about. When we say there's a lot of air pollution, we are the pollutants in many, many ways. So we need to understand that a lot of these issues are actually in every city. And the other point, Shreya, you and I, over the last several years, we would have one fine evening. We will discuss the frothing lakes of Bengaluru. The other day, we will discuss the burning landfills of Delhi. Third day, the AQI index of perhaps Delhi or any other city. And now we're discussing Mumbai as well. And we would think always that these are isolated, these are city-specific urban debate, as you call your show as well. But reality is that these are not city-specific at all. As if you change the name of Bengaluru and you replace that with Delhi and Gurgaon right now, and if Neha was actually doing traveling from say Connaught Place to a Gurgaon, she would also be taking the same amount of time doing that 10 kilometers. So the thing is that across these issues, across these cities, across time and phase and everything else, there's something similar in all of this, and that is the way we look at a solution. If you have a traffic problem, the two solutions that you have, one is indeed to really reduce the number of cars, and the other is to broaden the roads. Last several decades, what we've actually been doing, we've been broadening the roads, and there can never be enough broadening the road that will be able to take care of your whatever your greed and the car size and everything else. So public transport discussion that we are having as a challenge in Bengaluru, and the congestion, the air pollution crisis in Mumbai, and how even the climate is not able to fix, the natural air purifiers are not able to do the job that they have been able to do all this while. All of this has a connection, that apathy, that complete breakdown of urban planning. We don't even know if there's a department called urban planning. We don't even know if the government recruits urban planners, because if they did, their idea of, say, for example, in Mumbai, to really chop 2,700 trees, the only or perhaps one of the most prominent lungs of Mumbai, with so much arrogance and so much chest thumping, without any regret, while everyone told them that, why are you doing it when Mumbai is anything getting worse? Then there's a fundamental problem.
But Vimlendu, the counter argument to that is, if you don't do it, how will you move 1 million people? Then 50 lakh more people will buy cars to travel from home to work. And then you add more to the pollution. So you have to choose what is the lesser evil.
So Shreya, right to mobility or a swifter mobility, is that better? Is that better than right to life and right to clean air? As in, is it okay if I'm able to move quicker to one place to another, but very, very asthmatic, and I'll die 10 years early? Is that better if my child has a stunted lung growth, but is able to reach a school faster and a fancier? Is that better? So we need to understand that we cannot be comparing apples and oranges when we talk about public health. That what you rightly said in the beginning, standard of living and quality of life are two different things. You cannot compare that at all, and it can never be equated. Like a stunted lung can never be a choice because you want a bigger mall and a broader road and a fancier car and a fancier landfill.
Shreya, I would like to come in for a moment, if I may.
People are, I know all three of you, want to come in. I'm just going to start with Indrani ji. All three of you want to come in. So 20 seconds each before I go to Neha. And after that, go ahead, Indrani ji, 20 seconds to you.
Yes. One of the things that was just now mentioned about the transport sector, let me give you a quick example and people can read about it. When in 2002, the entire school bus system was started in Mumbai. You do know that there is a policy in Maharashtra, starting with Mumbai, that you cannot go to school unless you're on the school bus, thereby virtually eliminating thousands of cars each school day, twice a day, or sometimes even 3 times a day. So certain solutions which is within our hands will have to be ruthlessly executed. And it was done with the government. I did it because I was the creator of the whole system. But having said that, as you rightly said, you have to have mass transport, otherwise pollution will never be addressed. Plantation, yes, you will have to do a balancing act. I have always maintained that you cannot have a one way or the other. There has to be a balance. There's no black and white. You have to incorporate the shades of gray if you really want to have a solution which is implementable and sustainable. And yes, there is urban planning department, both in the Municipal Corporation of Mumbai as well as in the state of Maharashtra. How it functions and what are the things that go in there.
Mr. Punde, you wanted to make a quick point?
Yeah. So basically, I think, as I said at the outset,
Punde, go ahead.
This problem is kind of rooted in the paradigm of development, in the sense that our perception of development is completely, in another space. However, I also want to say that there are opportunities within the city. For example, in its land use strategy, we could actually begin to look at multiple use spaces rather than single use spaces. I think we have singularly assigned spaces. And I think that strategy needs to be kind of to gather a little momentum to think about spaces being used as multi-layered things. We cannot keep building, for example, infrastructure of different kinds for different things, but we need to certainly have an urban strategy where we can actually structure a very layered thing. And the third most important thing is, I think we call ourselves the IT leaders of the world. I don't know why we can't make our cities have IT capacities that people don't need to really move to work. I have an office now. Before the pandemic, I had an office of 2,500 square feet with 12 people sitting in it. I have a 300 square feet office with 30 people now working for me. And that's because they work across the country. And so I get the talent from all over the place. And so I think the digital world has some opportunities that how do we kind of leverage these into, in the idea of a new city for ourselves. The most important point here is we have to create our own story of development. I think we are becoming very poor copiers of what the rest of the world is, and the paradigm of development is kind of anchored in that idea. That needs to shift. That's it.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that. I think you make a very good point about people working from home. If you don't have to come to a studio to broadcast, if you're someone who needs to work on your laptop, if that's the nature of your work, why can't you have the flexibility to do that? It's a very good point, but increasingly I hear that most workplaces want people to come back. Sandeep, will you give me a second? I'll give you 20 seconds, but let me quickly go across to Neha and see where she is. Neha? I hope you're getting Neha's signal there. Neha, where have you reached? Have you managed to reach? It's 40 minutes now.
Well, Shreya, I think the smile on my face is quite evident. We've made it through this traffic menace. We've just reached Arcade signal, 6 kilometers. 40 minutes ago is when we started, 38 if I have to be exactly precise, since we are talking about time here. But, of course, this just really goes back to talk about how many people have to do this or worse on a daily basis. But, we have managed, of course, through a lot of traffic, through a lot of metro construction work, through a lot of, bottlenecks and potholes. We've made it, Shreya.
Okay. Congratulations, 6 kilometers in 38 minutes. Many people in Delhi and Mumbai will be looking at that number and looking at your report and saying, not bad. Sandeep, that is not bad.
Mumbai can travel 30 kilometers in the same time. You just have to board the suburban train.
No, that is... Oh, okay. Fair point. Just don't try getting into a Delhi metro. I mean, you'll be crushed almost to death if you do. Did you want to make a point? I can give you 10 seconds to wrap this chat because I will then wrap the show as well.
Since we've been talking about urban planning and governance, all that, the long and short of it is this. In 1992, our constitution was amended with the 74th Amendment. It clearly lays out the framework for how a city should be planned and how it should be governed. It clearly says a city should have a metropolitan planning committee, which will be the planning authority for a city. None of the cities in India have a metropolitan planning committee. It also clearly says the city government should be devolved and decentralized and unified, which means everything that a city needs, you should have one government running it. Typically, every city in India have 20 different parastatals running it. This is why none of our cities are planned, none of our cities are governed properly. And third, cities are treated stepmotherly because typically it is the state government of every state which manages the cities. So they don't care about the cities. There is a lack of subsidiarity. The people of the city should be able to decide what the city needs. This does not happen. That is why you see the city in the Karnataka government in Bengaluru right now is trying to build a flyover in Malleshwaram. People of Malleshwaram don't want it. They are carrying out a campaign saying we don't want a flyover. In fact, the citizens have better knowledge. They say flyovers don't work. It'll at most be a band-aid that works for a year. After that, again, it'll be congested. And citizens are so well informed. State government officials, ministers, none of them have a clue what they're doing. So this is, I think we need to act on the 74th Amendment. We have to empower metropolitan planning committees in every city. We should allow the process of master planning to work out.
Okay.
And you'll be shocked to know, Bengaluru, which is one of the largest metropolises in the world, does not have an active master plan right now. The last one, even though it was shoddily made, expired in 2015. So for about 7 to 8 years, we have no master plan even. So do you even wonder why we don't have a plan? Because it is deliberate. Our politicians don't want a plan. They keep trying to scam. They do all these ad hoc projects. They don't want any system. Because why? Because they are part of the state government. The state government is for the entire state. The ministers are from all around the state. They don't care about Bengaluru or Mumbai or Delhi. This is why our cities are orphaned. They are not planned well and they are misgoverned. They are mismanaged. That's the only point I want to make.
I think.
Well, maybe one thing citizens of the metro, of all the metros in this country need to do is on election day go out and vote. Maybe they'll get a little more attention if they do, because we've all seen the voting percentages of metro cities and it's abysmally low. So if they get ignored, well, they don't come out and vote. Anyhow, we'll leave it there. Longer discussion here. Thank you very much. Neha, thank you very much for joining us. Sandeep, thank you. Good to have you on the show. Indrani ji, thank you very much. And Vimlendu Jha, Ravindra Punde, thank you very much. I'm slipping into a